The crash came like a thunderclap in the middle of a summer night. For Sarah, the jolting impact of her truck being thrown into a spin was disorienting, but she didn't hesitate. Her hands gripped the wheel, her feet instinctively finding the brake pedal. Tires screeched against wet asphalt as she fought to regain control. In the rearview mirror, the dark shape of the falling object was already disappearing into the forest just off the road. "What in the hell was that?" she muttered, still trying to slow the truck down as the rain intensified. Lightning split the sky above, illuminating the dark, rain-soaked highway ahead. She cursed under her breath. She couldn't let whatever that was, whatever she had just witnessed, get away. Her foot slammed back on the gas pedal. Her heart raced as her truck roared forward, tires throwing up splashes of water, weaving down the slick road in pursuit of the mystery. It only took a minute to reach the crash site, but when she pulled over to the edge of the woods, she almost didn't want to get out. The rain had picked up, a steady downpour that added to the eerie silence surrounding the crash. The air felt thick, charged with an energy Sarah couldn't place. She grabbed the flashlight from the glove compartment and stepped out of the truck, her boots sinking into the muddy earth. With every step, the scent of wet soil and pine hit her, but it was something else, something metallic, foreign, that gnawed at her instincts. She followed the crumpled trail through the trees. And then there it was. A small, charred, and twisted piece of wreckage lay in front of her. Smoke curled lazily from the edges. It was unlike anything she had seen before. This wasn't a car, a plane, or even any kind of vehicle she knew. Its design was sleek, too smooth. Almost organic. There was a strange glowing light coming from the interior, but it wasn't bright, just a faint, unsettling hum. She approached slowly, cautiously, her breath visible in the chilly air. The beam of her flashlight cut through the darkness, but nothing prepared her for what she found. Inside the wreckage, partially covered by scorched metal, was a figure, alive, but unconscious. It was human, but not. The skin, grayish and smooth, shimmered under the light, as if the texture was wrong, unnatural. Its features were soft, delicate, and far more symmetrical than any human face. A sharp intake of breath escaped Sarah as she knelt beside it. Her heart hammered in her chest. What had she found? An alien? A crashed spaceship? She glanced around, checking the surrounding area. No sign of anything else. No search parties. No alien armies descending. Just the rain, the dark forest, and the thing in front of her. It moved. The creature's eyes snapped open, glowing with a soft amber light. It blinked, disoriented, as if trying to understand where it was, or what had happened. A low, guttural noise escaped its throat, a sound that made Sarah's blood run cold. For a second, she thought she might be dreaming. Everything about this felt so surreal. The creature, no, the person, shifted slightly, pushing against the wreckage as though trying to free itself. Its eyes met hers, and for the first time since the crash, Sarah could see the fear in them. "Are you okay?" Sarah asked, her voice trembling despite herself. The being didn't answer in words. Instead, it raised its hand weakly, as if reaching for her. Sarah's instincts screamed at her to run, to get in her truck and drive away from the unexplainable, the unknown. But something deep inside her, stopped her. This wasn't a wild animal, or a threat. She could feel the panic radiating from it, the vulnerability. She had never been one to leave someone in need, and despite everything, it was clear that whoever, or whatever, this was, it needed help. She swallowed hard, taking a cautious step forward. Her fingers brushed the creature's arm. It was cold, like ice, but it responded immediately, its hand curling around hers with an unexpected grip. "Help me!" The words were faint, but the voice, human in tone, sent a shiver down her spine. "Help?" Sarah repeated, her heart skipping in her chest. "Who or what are you?" It blinked again, its mouth forming words that didn't quite make sense. But Sarah could feel the weight of its struggle. This wasn't some attack, this was survival. And the stakes were bigger than either of them understood. "Listen," she said, her voice growing firmer. "I don't know who or what you are, But I'm not going to leave you here. You're coming with me. With a weak nod, the alien, if that's what it was, allowed her to pull it gently out of the wreckage, towards her truck. But as Sarah helped it into the passenger seat, a strange sensation prickled the back of her neck. They were no longer alone. The rain fell harder. The truck's headlights sliced through the rain like twin lances, illuminating the path back to Sarah's home. Inside the cab, the strange being beside her was silent, its amber eyes fixed on the road ahead, unblinking. Sarah stole a glance at it, feeling an uneasy thrill pulse through her veins. She didn't know whether she was making the right choice. In her gut, a voice warned her to leave this thing, whatever it was, behind. But her hands gripped the steering wheel tightly, a sense of responsibility pulling her forward. "You're not from here, are you?" she asked, keeping her tone light, trying to break the silence. The creature's gaze flickered toward her, as though processing the question. It opened its mouth, but instead of words, a series of clicks and soft hums escaped its throat, incomprehensible to Sarah. She swallowed, trying not to show the confusion creeping through her. Her mind raced for answers, but none came. "Well, that's just great," she muttered, shaking her head. "Can't even talk to you." But the being's eyes softened, a strange, almost human expression flickering across its face. For a fleeting moment, Sarah felt like they were connected. She wasn't sure if it was because of the circumstances or something deeper, but for the first time, she saw past the alien's strange appearance, into the soul behind the glowing eyes. It didn't seem hostile. It seemed lost. She couldn't stop herself from asking, "What are you? What do you need?" The alien's chest rose and fell with shallow breaths, and then it held up a hand, the fingers twitching as though trying to form some kind of gesture. "I don't know what you're trying to tell me, but I'll help you. I have to. I don't know why, but—" Sarah trailed off, her words hanging in the air. The sense of urgency around the creature seemed to grow with each passing minute. Suddenly, the calm of the night shattered. A faint, high-pitched whine echoed through the truck's radio, briefly distorting the sound of the rain. The static wasn't random. It was deliberate, like someone was trying to get through. Sarah's heart skipped a beat. She glanced at the dash, where the radio crackled again, more intense this time. It wasn't just static. It was a message. A voice, low and mechanical, spoke through the crackle. "Return it." Sarah's pulse quickened. Her hand instinctively moved toward the radio dial, but the alien beside her stiffened, eyes wide. It reached out and grasped her arm with a surprising strength, pulling her hand away from the controls. "No!" The alien's voice, raspy and strained, echoed faintly in her head, though it didn't come from its mouth. It wasn't a language she could understand, but the urgency in its tone was unmistakable. Sarah froze. She hadn't imagined it. The words had been clear. Not a sound, but a feeling. The creature wasn't just speaking. It was communicating, and she felt it in the pit of her stomach. Who was that?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. The alien didn't respond, but the tension in the air thickened. The hum in the radio was gone now, replaced by silence, but the feeling of being watched was unmistakable. Sarah's eyes flicked to the rearview mirror, half expecting to see headlights approaching. Instead, she saw nothing, except the darkness of the road behind her. "Please," the alien said, its voice soft, almost pleading. "They're coming. You must leave." "Leave?" Sarah repeated, incredulous. "I'm not just going to." Before she could finish, a blinding light cut through the downpour, followed by a thunderous roar that rattled the truck's frame. A sleek black vehicle, almost like a military transport, but streamlined and far more advanced, shot across the road in front of them. It wasn't a car. It was something else. The alien beside her let out a sharp gasp, gripping the door handle tightly, its body tensing. "Go!" it hissed, more insistent now. "Run! They'll kill you if they find me!" The vehicle's headlights swerved toward her, and she barely had time to react before another one appeared from the opposite direction. They were boxed in, trapped. Her instincts screamed at her to drive, but the alien's grip tightened, pulling her focus back to it. Its face twisted with an expression she couldn't read, a mixture of fear and determination. Its voice, now desperate, carried a weight of warning. "I'm not from Earth," it whispered, barely audible. "But they are. And they'll stop at nothing to take me back." The truck lurched as she slammed her foot on the gas pedal, but it felt like every road was closing in on them. The first vehicle surged forward, its engines revving loudly. The alien's warning was clear, there was no escaping this. Yet somehow, deep inside, Sarah knew she had no choice but to fight. The chase had just begun. The truck's tires screeched as Sarah swerved, narrowly avoiding the black vehicle that had appeared out of nowhere. Her heart hammered in her chest as she gripped the steering wheel with white-knuckled hands. The alien beside her was tense, its eyes darting from the rearview mirror to the side windows, every muscle coiled like a predator waiting to spring. "They're coming for me," the alien whispered, its voice now a low hiss, filled with a mixture of fear and urgency. "You can't outrun them. They're faster, more powerful." Sarah's jaw clenched as she pressed the accelerator harder, the truck surging forward, its engine roaring in protest. "I'm not just going to let them take you," she said, more to herself than to the alien. Her mind raced. Who were they? And why was this creature so important? Through the thick rain, the first of the pursuing vehicles loomed again in her side mirror. Its sleek, angular shape seemed to blend with the storm as it drew closer, unyielding, relentless. Sarah knew she couldn't outrun them forever, but she had no intention of going down without a fight. Her eyes flicked to the road ahead. There was a sharp curve coming up, if she could just make it. "Hold on!" she shouted, swerving the truck hard to the right. The tires squealed as they slid along the wet asphalt, and for a moment, Sarah lost control. The truck fishtailed wildly, her stomach lurching as it threatened to spin out. But the truck regained its grip, and they shot down the curve, narrowly missing a guardrail. The alien next to her gasped, its body instinctively bracing against the seat, but it didn't make a sound. "That was close," Sarah muttered under her breath, eyes fixed on the road. She felt a jolt of adrenaline surge through her body. There was no turning back now. The creatures chasing them weren't just trying to stop them, they were after something far more valuable. "What do you want from me?" Sarah asked, her voice shaky. She stole another glance at the alien beside her. "Why are they after you?" The alien didn't answer right away. It seemed to weigh the question, its gaze fixed on the road ahead as the distant hum of the pursuing vehicle grew louder. Finally it spoke, its voice softer this time, but still filled with urgency. "They want to capture me. They want to use me. But they don't know what I'm capable of. They'll never understand." The alien's voice dropped to a near whisper. "You can't let them take me. They'll use me against you. Against everyone." Sarah swallowed hard. She didn't understand everything, but she understood one thing. Whoever these people were, they didn't just want the alien. They were willing to do anything to get it. And she wasn't about to hand it over. "I won't let them," Sarah promised, her eyes narrowing as she glanced at the rearview mirror. The black vehicle was closer now, its headlights blinding in the storm. A sharp flash of light reflected off its surface, blurring the edges of the world around her. The creature beside her seemed to sense her resolve. Its gaze softened, and for a moment, Sarah saw a flicker of something like gratitude in its amber eyes. It wasn't just fear anymore, it was a bond. She didn't know what it was yet, but she could feel it growing between them. "They'll stop at nothing," the alien murmured, its voice low. "You need to know, if they catch me, it's not just me they're after. It's the entire world. They'll destroy everything." Sarah's heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean?" The alien looked at her, its eyes filled with a weight of knowledge and pain. "I'm not just any being," it said. "I'm a key. A key to something they want to control. And if they unlock it, the world as you know it will cease to exist." The road ahead seemed to stretch on forever, the rain now falling harder than before. But in the distance, something else appeared, another vehicle, this one even larger, its engine thrumming like a beast waiting to pounce. "There's no more time," the alien said, its voice urgent. "We can't keep running." Sarah's eyes darted to the dashboard, where the map flashed. There was an old, overgrown path just up ahead. It wasn't a road, really. It was barely more than a dirt trail winding through a dense forest. It wasn't much, but it might be their only chance. "Hold on," Sarah said again, slamming the truck into gear. The engine roared as she turned the wheel sharply, the tires struggling to gain traction as they veered off the paved road and onto the uneven dirt path. Behind them, the black vehicles followed, relentless and unfaltering, their headlights cutting through the downpour. The chase was on. And this time, there would be no turning back. The truck bounced violently over the uneven terrain, its headlights casting fleeting shadows of gnarled trees and twisted underbrush. Sarah's grip tightened on the wheel, her knuckles pale against the dark interior of the truck. The rain continued to lash the windshield, reducing her visibility to mere inches, but she couldn't afford to slow down. The sound of the pursuing vehicles grew louder, a constant, menacing growl, echoing through the storm. "How much farther?" she asked, her voice tight with urgency. The alien, still sitting beside her, seemed to be lost in thought, eyes scanning the storm-ravaged landscape. The faint glow from its skin seemed to flicker, dimming and brightening in time with its breathing. Sarah had learned in the past few hours that the creature wasn't just some helpless fugitive. It was strong, far stronger than she could have imagined, but it was also burdened by knowledge she wasn't fully ready to understand. "We don't have much time," the alien answered cryptically, its voice strained as it gripped the side of the truck for stability. "They're closing in. They've already cut off the main road ahead." Sarah's pulse quickened. They were trapped. She glanced into the rearview mirror again and saw a flash of headlights through the storm. The black vehicles had followed them onto the path, but now there was a second one, larger, more intimidating. Her stomach churned. The odds weren't in their favor, but there was no turning back. "There has to be somewhere we can hide," Sarah muttered. She quickly scanned the forest around them. The trees grew thick, the shadows deep, but the trail ahead narrowed with each passing moment. "They will find us," the alien said quietly, its tone heavy with defeat. "The only way we'll survive is if you trust me." Sarah shot a quick glance at it, her heart hammering in her chest. "Trust you?" She could hardly believe she was having this conversation. "How can I trust you? I'm not like them," it said, its voice tinged with a sadness that Sarah could hear, even beneath the storm's howling winds. "I have no desire to harm you, but they will use me for things you can't imagine. You must—" A sudden, sharp crack interrupted the alien. Sarah slammed on the brakes as the truck jolted forward, the tires skidding on the slick mud. She looked up just in time to see a thick branch snap in half, crashing into the truck's hood, knocking it sideways. The truck groaned under the impact, veering off the path and plunging into the underbrush. "Hold on!" Sarah shouted, twisting the wheel to regain control, but the truck was spinning out of her reach. The alien hissed, its body bracing against the impact. "Now! We have to go!" Sarah didn't need further encouragement. She flung open the door, bolting into the forest without a second thought. Her heart pounded in her chest, each breath coming in sharp, jagged bursts as she sprinted ahead. The storm lashed against her skin, but she barely felt it. The alien's footfalls were almost silent beside her. Despite its otherworldly nature, it moved with the fluidity of a predator. Its presence, once a mystery, now felt like a warning. "We're too far in," Sarah gasped as they moved deeper into the trees. "If we don't find a way out—" "We have no way out unless you trust me," the alien interrupted, its voice low and insistent. "I can't help you if you don't." A flash of red light flickered in the distance, and Sarah's stomach dropped. The pursuing vehicles were no longer a sound, they were a presence, almost tangible. There were too many of them, and the storm was no longer just an obstacle. It was becoming a weapon, hiding the danger closing in. "I trust you," Sarah said, the words tumbling from her lips without thought. She didn't know why, but something in her gut told her that if she didn't, they were as good as dead. "Now show me what you can do." The alien's eyes glowed with an almost feral intensity, and it stopped running. Its body shifted, the air around it shimmering with an invisible force. Sarah took a few steps back, instinctively, as something in the alien's energy field pulsed, vibrant and full of power. "There's no going back now," it warned, looking straight at her. "Not for either of us." Without another word, the alien extended a hand toward the ground. The earth beneath them trembled, and Sarah stumbled back as a jagged rift split the forest floor. It was like watching reality itself bend, fracture, and pull apart. "Get in," the alien ordered. "What?" Sarah began, but before she could finish, the alien's hand shot out, and she was pulled toward the rift. Her feet left the ground as the world around her blurred into a swirl of colors and shadows. There was no air, no sound, just the cold, biting realization that she was no longer running from the storm. They were running towards something far worse. The rift snapped shut behind them, sealing off the forest and the chaos they had left behind. And in that moment, Sarah understood, they were no longer just hiding. They were diving into something that would change everything. The storm was only the beginning.